Hello, everyone, and welcome to the weekly MMA Cycles Market Update. This is Gianni DePoce, and it's Friday again. It's great, as always, to be with you all. Want to review some markets and what happened in this past week. It was a pretty tough week for many equity markets, but we saw other markets such as crude oil and the dollar hold up much better. So without further ado, let's go ahead and look at some charts here, beginning with the S&P 500. We rallied into Thursday, and 2 days after Taurus season began, we made a new weekly high and then flushed out to close near the lows of the week, which is not very bullish price action. We also saw the Dow Jones hold up the best once again. This speaks to the strength of the inflation trade, which took a beating this past week. However, we are seeing many segments of this inflation trade hold up because the Dow is a industrial heavy index, so it was down less than the rest of the market. And in looking at the NASDAQ was down the most as we continue to see the tech trade unwind. And we actually had a good question from a viewer last week, which I will get to toward the end of this video, so stay tuned for that. I also want to look at what happened in crude oil. We saw prices pretty much go sideways in crude oil, consolidating just above the $100 level, which is, not good, not bad. Generally speaking, consolidation near the highs, says that there's more buyers in the picture than sellers. But we're coming up to a couple important aspects that pertain to crude oil this next week, and those aspects are the Venus conjunction with Neptune on April 27th, and the Venus conjunction with Jupiter on April 30th. So we could expect perhaps a high or low of significance to form in crude oil, or perhaps some greater volatility by the middle to end of next week, and possibly even spill over into the first week of May. We also have Pluto beginning its retrograde motion on April 29th, which actually is a great segue into the next market that I wanted to look at, which is the interest rate on the 10-year Treasury note. So Pluto rules interest rates because it rules debts. And so we know that interest rates have risen notably since the COVID crash of 2020. And now that everyone's seemingly talking about inflation and high interest rates, are we due for a reversal? Well, we will know, but a potential catalyst for a minor reversal in trend in the interest rate market could be due to Pluto's retrograde motion. So we definitely will keep you updated on our weekly reports because we trade T-notes, which is the inverse. So in this case, T-notes basically track the inverse of the 10-year Treasury note. But that's definitely an aspect to keep an eye out for this upcoming week. I also want to look at gold, because gold closed out near the lows of the week. Taurus season began that has rulership over currencies. A lot of people consider gold to be a currency. Gold is not ruled by Taurus. Gold is ruled by Leo, which is a 90-degree square sign to Taurus. And so the ingress so far into Taurus season has been bearish for gold. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. And the last thing I wanted to look at is the US dollar, which continues to make it made a new multi-week high, or multi-year high again this week. We can look at the longer term chart here because it rallied to its highest level since, what would that be? April 2020. So it made a 2-year high this past week. And this is, despite all the calls for an imminent crash of the dollar, it's been appreciating notably against currencies like the euro and the Japanese yen. And a lot of that is due to the Fed's increase of interest rates. So what that's doing is attracting global capital into the US dollar because people want those higher interest rates. So that's pretty much what I wanted to review in terms of markets this week. But I do want to pivot back to the NASDAQ because I mentioned we had a question from a viewer and it's from Steve. So thanks, Steve, for submitting your question. Your question was, when does Saturn exit Aquarius? Because last week we talked about how Saturn has a tendency to depress prices in the sign that it's in, and especially the sectors ruled by that sign. So Aquarius rules technology, and the NASDAQ has been underperforming, and it's down, over 20% from its all-time high. So to answer your question, Steve, that Saturn will be in Aquarius until March of 2020, at which point it will ingress into Pisces. And that actually raises another point is, since Pisces rules crude oil, could that slowly but surely start to depress the price of crude oil? That would be ideal given the state of the world today. But there's another side to Saturn too, because it can lead to shortages. So, what we're seeing in this tech space, it's depressing prices in tech. It's not liking this inflationary environment, but we also see a chip shortage. The semiconductor sector and the computer sector, the computer industry, relies on chips, and there is a massive chip shortage. And so that is also manifesting as a result of Saturn's transit through Aquarius. So great question, Steve. I really appreciate the feedback, and anyone else that has any questions, feel free to submit them via email. So that pretty much wraps up everything I want to talk about today. Just want to remind all of our viewers that Puyan Zulfargania, who was our guest last week, will be publishing his MMA monthly addendum report on the 25th of April. So that will be this upcoming Monday. We also have the part 2 of MMA market update series that's going to be on Sunday, May 8th. So mark that on your calendar for further details. Check that out at MMAcycles.com. And last and certainly not least, I will be a featured guest on Tony Howard's and Astrology University's webinar tomorrow, Saturday, April 23rd. So we're going to be talking about markets and mundane astrology with a special emphasis on inflation. So really don't think you should miss that. So you can check that out at astrologyuniversity.com. So thanks again for watching, and we will see you next week with another update. Thank you.